In this video, we're going to work on how to stop a script, how to recycle a script, also using the Boolean logic in your application, the and, or not conditions, and also multi-screenshotting with different children. Let's talk about stop the thread. That's a good one. What if when I clicked finished, I actually wanted to be finished and I didn't want to restart? Like I just want it to end. If you do, so what you can do is, and you don't have to even have a button, you can just say after completion of finished, which would be if these are ever true on the screen, we can just hit stop the thread. And that will end, it'll end running the thread. This is really good if you want to log into something, do a few things, get to the end, and then quit. I like to use the stop thread on when I get to an end state, like maybe whatever I was trying to do is completed and I don't need to do anything else anymore. I can just stop the thread and it'll quit. But let's test that. So let's go ahead and do it with a run. So I'm going to run on instance. I'll do it on all three. Do it on 1 or 0, 1, and 2. So all of them now have that quit in there. Let's just go ahead and jump to the end. And it actually ended the session. Put that one to the end. Let's move this one to the end. And now the threads are done and it stopped them. This is a little more intricate. You'll kind of have to go look down here in the comments. It says, finish stopping the thread, closing the emulator, shutting down the thread. That's kind of the words that you're going to see when you do that. I like to do those when, again, I like to do those when you're just done, or I like to put a little timer at the top, like right up at the very top that says run for 5 minutes. Run for 5 minutes and then recycle. So enable limits, time, wait first. If you don't say that, it's going to do it immediately. And we'll run for, let's say, 10 minutes. So enable limits, time, wait first, 10 minutes. Now, why did it do this? It says this node is not included in the reference picture, typically from a minimal export. If this node is true during a run, a screenshot will automatically be linked. You can also manually take a screenshot. It also said at the bottom when I did that, unable to locate window ATS window 1 or window 2. And that's because I have design instance 2. Let's change it to 1, and I don't have the emulators running anymore, so I'm going to hit start, take a screenshot just for fun. So we run for 5 minutes and we have a recycle on it. Stop thread. What does recycle do? When you're using the Knox emulator, recycle will actually restart the whole process. It's essentially the same as clicking run, start, and launch. If you get it into an error state, like if you get it into a known error state, like I know that when I get here I'm stuck and I just want to quit. So that's what that recycle will do. It will actually restart the application. So if the app gets, like, let's say you're using it and so for whatever reason it just decides to lock up at a certain point and that's identifiable, I had to just have it recycle. Let's see, did we do everything? I think we did everything. Let's do a little quick tutorial on the logic here. I don't think we covered this in this one. There's a lot of clicks on that one. Let's find one that's not so busy. Let's see, alright, so this one's got 5 choices. Let's do this and or logic. So and logic means all of these colors have to be anded, and or logic, I think we covered that, can be this one or this one or this one or this one or this one with points applied. Custom can be a little bit different. You can customize this and say 1 and 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Now it's good to put parentheses around it so it'll work. And when you're writing it in here custom, you can hit validate and it will tell you if it's green that it worked. And if I put 5x here and hit validate, it'll be red. And it'll say at runtime it's going to skip this node because it can't figure out what to do. The parse check is it can't figure out what x means. And that's because x isn't one of the numbers. Let's hit validate. Just a little side note, you can use AND or the ampersand, double ampersand if you'd like, and hit validate. That's also valid. It's the same thing as AND. You can also use AND as well. Same thing as AND. And that goes for OR as well. You can use OR you can use the pipe, or you can use the double pipe. And you can also say 5 or not 5. Or you can also say exclamation point 5. It's all this considers it all the same. When you hit test, it's going to do a little math for you and say, okay, in this particular case, we're on a different screen, but it said, okay, this failed, this failed, this failed, this failed, this failed. So 1 is false, 2 is false, 3 is false, 4 is false, 5 is false. And then it did this Boolean logic. And it kind of shows you what it did in case you want to troubleshoot it. So it says false and false, or false, or false, or not false. That resulted in true. Mostly because I said or not false. Not false would be true, and then I said or true, so true is true. If I'm like, well, I don't really want to do that not false, let's go ahead and fix that. Get rid of not false or not false and hit validate or test. It's going to show you that now we have a failure because false and false is false, or false is also false, or false is also false, or false is also false. So it said failure. You probably need, if you didn't keep up with that, don't worry. It's just available for you to use. And it supports any of your favorite languages. And I believe you can say or 5 and 1 and 5 test. It's as fine as well. You can use multiple checks in here. And then it shows you what it does. So really it converted multi-language into single language, then it converted single language into Boolean, and then it told you, and then it evaluated this and it says there weren't any, this is not true. So it failed. Let's cover one last thing, and that is what is it doing? Like, what is this really doing? When it gets to the home, it takes a screenshot, and it uses that same screenshot for all of the screens. What if you don't want it to do that? What if you wanted to take a new screenshot in the middle and then do the check? Especially on the 1 through 6ers right here. Blind continue. Let's do the version one. Let's go to that one. When we're on this screen, we take a screenshot and then we check it. And if we see first, then we click first. We wait 1 second. We continue. We click second. And these waits wait for the screen to redraw. But what if you didn't want to do that? What if you needed to check it with a different screenshot after? What if you wanted to take another screenshot? The way to do that is to uncheck this box that says use parent screenshot. When you uncheck this box, it will take a new screenshot and use that and pass it to the children. It's kind of useful if you do an action and then you want to do a check on the result of that action without going to home first and doing all of the steps. So that's what this is for. When I have this use parent screenshot checked, it's going to use the parent screenshot, which is the home. And when I'm on this one, it's going to take a brand new, it's going to do this. So when we get to the blind one, first it's going to use the parent screenshot to do this check. Then it's going to take a new screenshot and then check this. If I also unchecked it here, it would take a new screenshot on this line. And since there is no, oh, there's criteria, and then it would click continue. So that's just another way of building the apps. It's a little bit harder, but it's more serialized if you do it that way. But it gives you that control. If you made it this far, congratulations. This is the end of the series on the basics of AppTestStudio. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you walk through the videos step by step as you automate through the AppTestStudio Trainer application. That should enable you to automate almost anything. Some of the greatest features of AppTestStudio have came from suggestions. If you have a suggestion, please put it in the comment below.